Um, Tim Storey is a person that truly loves life. I think there's a difference between going through life and living life. So I'm in the moment, fully present, fully feeling, fully alive. I'm living life.
I love that. What is the difference between going through life and living life?
I think the going through life is what a lot of people were educated to do is, we get through elementary school, get through middle school, go through high school. Then what are you going to do next? And then we get a little older. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have children? So it's always something in the future. But I think Eckhart Tolle did such a great job in showing us the power of now, about being in the moment. So I perfected that at a very young age. Like I'm fully alive since I was little.
So, how would you encourage somebody to think about living life and being in the present, especially when it's so ingrained in us to always be thinking about what's next?
Yes. So I think the idea of being many times nervous about what's next is it's that idea of uncertainty. But if you can somehow get a revelation that your life is going to be meaningful and get a illumination, an awakening that your life matters, then you're okay going at a certain pace. So that's what happened to me early on. When I was probably 10 years of age, I knew that I was going to help people. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew I was going to help people. So I was already very, very awake at 10 years of age. And I think that helped me to be in the moment of that age and then the age that I am now.
It's so interesting because when you say that, what I think of is a soul's calling or a soul's purpose.
Yes.
And I love a soul's calling or a soul's purpose. And
Yes.
part of what is really important about this show is helping people understand how to listen to their soul's calling and purpose, because it's not that people don't hear it, it's that we're so trained to not listen to it. So, where do you think that fear comes from, and how do you think we can unlock that?
Yes. So I think part of it is going back to the innocence. Before children hit kindergarten and they're playing maybe just with their own siblings or by themselves, they've created their own universe on the way they see life. Then they're thrown into this classroom with, let's say, 25 kids that are coming from all different backgrounds, nationalities, cultures, upbringing, education. And then they start to see that other kids are doing it different. That's why I like this quote that says, "You've been born an original, don't die a copy." I think that early on that we're taught to start to emulate and copy other people of what we think life is supposed to be about.
It's really beautiful because the most profound journeys often are when you're walking your own path.
Yes.
There isn't a roadmap in front of you.
I think there's no doubt about it is so because we love creative people. Like if you look at Pharrell Williams and you see how his life has evolved from being a producer and then at the same time he loved fashion. So he got into Billionaires Boys Club and all that. And then he loves movies. So he started doing things with movies and then scoring movies. His latest movie on the Legos is just like mind boggling. And then for him to be the head of Louis Vuitton for men, I love that about him. So he didn't let somebody limit him and then lock him. See, I think it's one thing to be limited. It's another thing to be locked. Some people are limited and locked.
That's so interesting because one of the things I think of is limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
hold us back. And so, a lot of times, because of the way that we're raised, we have all of these limiting beliefs that are
Yeah.
ingrained in us to assume as truth.
Hmm.
And part of where I realized that showed up for me is as a woman, a lot of times negotiating against yourself because you're negotiating against the no
Yes.
versus negotiating against the yes.
Hmm.
And that's a limiting belief
Yeah.
that holds you back. So, what are some of the most profound limiting beliefs that you've had to unlearn?
So I think coming from Compton, California, which is known as the inner city, mostly back then when I was raised there, that the idea was, it's we're lower income. There's a lot of strife. There's a lot of things that can cause you harm. So be careful, be careful. So everything was about be careful, right? The street lights are on. You better be in the house. Be careful. And then I had three older sisters. So my parents were really like, really be careful. So by hearing these words, be careful all the time, if I wasn't uh, awake, I would have been too careful and never taken the risk. So one of the early limiting beliefs was this idea of almost having fear because of where we started and where we lived.
That's really important. And I'd love to spend some time there.
Yeah.
So, having fear because of where you come from and the environment that you were raised in,
Yeah.
how do you unlearn that?
It's not easy. And that's why most people never unlearn. So that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this journey that you're taking the world on to unlearn certain things, because I think most people never unlearn them, and they just have that kind of coat of paint of what people have put on them of how life is supposed to be, through the person they married, or through religion, or through their parents. Um, so I think for me, I started to learn through education. In sixth grade, my teacher, he asked me to stay after class, and he said, Timmy, I want to tell you something. I think that you are brilliant. So he says this to me in sixth grade. I'd never had anybody say anything like that to me before. He said, I think you're brilliant. And because I think you're brilliant, I want to see if you would like to check out one of my books, as far as check it out, like from the library. He had these three books. He pulled it out of his briefcase. They used to have briefcases back then. And one of them was The Life of Michelangelo. And I saw that book, and I'd seen something in a documentary about Michelangelo before. So I chose that book. So when I started to read that book about this creative that thought outside the box and how he created art, Morgan, my mind just went, whoa. I felt like I found alignment with a kindred soul of somebody who saw things in such a different manner. I read that book, and through education, reading that book, it just made me that guy. I was just always reading and educating myself up and out.
Alignment is something that is so dependent on self trust.